So Trump might have just said the most honest thing he's ever said throughout his entire second term. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, thank you for tuning in here today. My name's Ian Phillips, and we got a special little segment here for you guys today. Trump is basically being asked, does he think he's going to get into heaven? And he claims he's not. He claims he's not going to go to heaven. And he starts off, I'm being a little cute. And then he starts elaborating on this topic here, which I think is particularly interesting. Because it's one of those things where, deep down, I feel like he actually might feel this way, that he hasn't done good. Now, who knows if he's just, hyping things up for the rhetoric of the TV? I don't know, man. I'll never know with this guy, right? I think he's just like pure evil at this point. I used to give him the benefit of the doubt on a lot of issues, but after the stuff that he pulls constantly over and over again, I mean, everything from bombing Iranian nuclear sites to manipulating the market, and costing billions of dollars just be wiped away overnight. From people's accounts. I always try to give him the benefit of the doubt, but something you can't look away, at certain things now. I mean, the evidence is so crystal clear to me that this man is, one, not only not fit for office, but also just a bloody supervillain. I mean, the Epstein stuff, right? The constant support of Israel, which is committing a genocide, right? Backing of Saudi Arabia. I mean, you name it. This guy's doing the opposite thing. I mean, just the other day, I just put out a video yesterday. This man just abolished the Office for Children with Disabilities in the U.S. Department of Education. Like, bro, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing? And you could say, okay, well, yeah, but Ian, right? Wouldn't you say that the United States is doing very, very bad in terms of their education, and therefore the people who run education need to be fired? It's like, okay, yeah, but they don't run education, right? Everything's controlled by the states. So you can't say that. You can't come back and say to me that the states don't run anything and that it's all the federal government and that they need to be taken care of, which is what he has autonomy over. It's a show move. It's a show move. It doesn't do anything. These people give guidance so the states don't get sued, and it saves us government money, taxpayer money. That's what they do. And they give guidance based on what? Federal law and best practices. I don't know. Now, I don't always agree with best practices in special education, but the fact of the matter is that a lot of these people probably didn't need to be fired, and it's probably going to cost the government more money than it would save. Now, maybe you can fire some people, but when I hear the entire department has been gutted, raises alarms. I don't know. Raises alarms for me. Perhaps I'm in the minority. I don't know. Always something to complain about with this administration. But ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at this clip here today. I want to give you the clip in its entirety so you guys can make up your own minds today, and we'll go from there and talk about it a little bit.
I'm being a little cute. I don't think there's anything going to get me in heaven. Okay, I think I'm not maybe heaven bound. I may be in heaven right now as we fly an Air Force One. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make heaven, but I've made life a lot better for a lot of people. And as an example, had the election of 2020 not been rigged, you would have millions of people living just in Russia, Ukraine alone. That would have never happened, and it didn't happen for 4 years. And I knew Putin very well. It was the apple of his eye. All the things I've said would have never happened. We had an incompetent administration. We had an incompetent president. And because of a crooked election, millions of people are dead. And by the way, the Israeli thing was much harder to get settled because of the past administration.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, that's not looking good here. And this man is doubling down. He's doubling down on the 2020 election was stolen, which, to be completely honest with you here, there is no evidence. There is no evidence of this. And even if there was evidence, right, let's say that there was, right? And maybe it was covered up good. I think if you're going to steal a U.S. federal election, like, you're going to have to cover it up good. So maybe let's say that it was even. Let's say that it even was. Do you really think that he would have stood a chance anyways? I don't particularly think so, right? And you know what's funny too? 2016 election wasn't rigged, and the 2024 election wasn't rigged. It was only 2021. But I don't know. Like, to me, imagine this, right? Imagine you're president of the United States, right? And all the other countries around you are giving people, thousands of dollars to stay afloat during COVID, and our government's not doing anything. Do you think people are going to like you that much? Probably not. They're probably not going to like you. But wait a second though. Are they just not doing anything? Not really, ladies and gentlemen. What did the United States government do during COVID? Well, if you have any sense, you were following the economic policies of the United States, and you realize that they spent about $35,000 per everybody over the age of 16. So we could have been given $35,000 in cash handed to every single citizen over the age of 16. I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but I was not handed $35,000 in cash. I don't know. So where the fuck did the money go? Where did the money go? Where did it go? They are corrupt. These are people filling their own coffers, and they are only looking out for their own interests and their own agendas, and we all know it's true. But the second we say that it's true, we start to look crazy. we start to look crazy, or everybody just sort of takes it as that's a way of life. Why should that be a way of life? Why should we have to sit back and take this from the elite? I don't understand why. I think this is why you see a lot of support for people like Luigi Mangione, for example, right? People who, go around offing CEOs, or people who go around offing political commentators, right, who are on the opposing side. Rhetoric is hot right now. Things are bad, right? And a lot of people see the establishment, people who are very corrupt, as people who need to be left office. Now, obviously, there's a right way to handle that. It's with your vote. But with that said, you can see just the divisiveness. And a lot of people do feel very strongly in the opposing direction, but a lot of people also feel like we can't do anything. And I think that this is on both sides of the aisle, right? Oftentimes, you look at, the left is the people who are rising up, but let's not forget the right. I mean, with the Capitol riots, Jesus Christ, they literally raided the effing Capitol. Now, I've been on record, and I'll still stay on record saying that, like, look, in the Constitution, it says, look, if you genuinely feel as if your government is corrupt, then you need to step in, right, to prevent that corruption, obviously, and help your country and promote its growth. So, like, you can understand, right? If the president of the United States is saying that the election has been stolen, you can at least understand the sentiments behind those people, right? Look, our founders in this country were murderous villains, right, by the British standards, but they happened to win, and they wrote history for our own perspectives today. And so we look at them now as the founding fathers as opposed to just a bunch of random murderers. And so, there's a fine line to these things, right? And I've always been rather interested in revolution, just from a historical standpoint, and really studying it. And the psychology behind the people who are actually enacting those revolutions. But what I will say, ladies and gentlemen, is that Donald Trump is like an anti-revolutionary. The only thing he's revolutionized is, how many drone strikes he can get away without reporting, just like the executive orders that he was signing during his first term. And so, like, you'd say, okay, well, like, should he have won the 2020 election? Let's say that it was stolen, right? Would he have won anyways? No, he wouldn't have. He handled COVID so bloody poorly, right? He got us involved in so many different conflicts. I remember his first term, right? This is a man who bombed the Iranian general and almost started the Third World War, which was trending online for weeks. This was insanity. This is a man who was not supporting the Kurdish people, for God's sake. This is a man who, on the whole, had a lot of terrible rhetoric as it concerns members of the LGBTQ community, attacking trans people constantly, and just like he did the other day when he ripped pensions away from trans veterans, people who served our country valiantly. He just, says you're not allowed to get a pension now solely because you're trans, right? And you want to express yourself under the First Amendment. This is a man who's attacking free speech, says, we don't like what you have to say, and so therefore, in order to, to quell conflict, we have to, get rid of free speech, right? Or at least limit free speech. This is what dictators do, ladies and gentlemen. And I think that we all need to speak up and start acknowledging this, because if we don't, things can get bad very, very quickly. Now, maybe it's not at the level as it was back in the 1930s, but I'll tell you what, it ain't looking good, because every single day, just wait till an amendment gets repealed, and all of a sudden he can run for a third term. And maybe I'm just stoking the flames here a little bit, but I don't necessarily see it as unreasonable for him to try to do that. And I don't know. I don't think we should be going in that direction. Now, with that said, too, let's talk about it here. So this man is obviously upset, right? He don't think that he's going to get into heaven. I feel like it's a little bit telling. I actually do feel like he probably does believe this. But in the same breath, he also feels as if he's like a hero, like a savior to society in some regards. And I think he's thinking right now that, like, the war in Ukraine and Russia would have never broke out at all. It's like, well, we can take a look at that, right? The Ukraine was invaded under a notoriously strong president back in 2014 with Crimea. Obama, a very person you ain't going to be messing with under no circumstances, I don't think. And yet, sort of slid by, right? I don't think anybody really cared. And then you have, like, anybody in Russia would have been fearful of that. They did it, and I can't imagine that Trump would make them any more feared than Obama's administration. You know what I'm saying? Am I wording that right? Maybe I'm wording that wrong. But what I will say is that, let's say that Trump was in power and it wasn't Sleepy Joe Biden. Do we think this actually would have happened? I don't know. But what I can tell you is I certainly think it would have. And I certainly think that, given the evidence, there's no reason to think that it wouldn't have. They're not in NATO. Have them join fucking NATO. Why is this so difficult, right? Everybody always likes to say, oh, we're going to defend them, blah, 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 blah. It's like, first of all, like, okay, like that's fine. If we're going to support the Ukraine, right, you have to say that we're going to support you fully, give you practically unlimited money, unlimited resources, and we're going to send our own troops into that country. Because why else? Why are we supporting them, right? You just keep them on a lifeline when they're going to get slaughtered anyways by a massive world power of Russia. It doesn't really make any sense, right? And, you know, I look and I see what Trump's espousing, saying that the war would have ended on day one. Was it ended on day one? No, it wasn't ended on day one. You know why? Because he can't end it on day one. And it never would be ended on day one. It doesn't matter if it's Trump, doesn't matter if it's Obama, doesn't matter if it's Biden, doesn't matter if it's Bush, doesn't matter if it's Clinton, doesn't matter who it is. It was never going to be ended on day one. And I understand, well, look, it's just rhetoric. He's hyperbolizing. Would have ended soon, very, very quickly. All right, well, what actions has he actually taken to end the war in the Ukraine? You know, nothing substantial by my measures, right? I mean, you have to literally force a sovereign country, right, to give up land, and you have to make the other country annex that land away. And then you have to say, okay, well, Ukraine, you got to at least join fucking NATO. Right? What did Trump say? He said, well, how about you just give them land, and then we'll make a provision for, 20 to 30 years later, then you can join NATO. Like, bro, what are you doing? What are you doing? This doesn't make any sense at all. And people need to start speaking up about this, right? Because then what's going to happen? It's going to happen again. They're going to invade, another, 8 years later. And then all of a sudden we're going to keep repeating, right? And there's always a reason why. I mean, you've seen Putin with Tucker Carlson. This dude went on like a 1-hour rant explaining why Russia is entitled to the land of the Ukraine. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. And, a lot of it's pre-rehearsed. But the fact of the matter is they ain't giving it up, man. They ain't giving it up. And if they have no protections in the Ukraine, this is a problem. And we're wasting our taxpayer money. We're wasting our resources. You're breaking good relationships with countries. All for what? I understand. Obviously, the Ukraine's in the right. But, dude, like, we got our own interests to take care of. This is insanity. And so, first of all, this guy wouldn't have saved millions of lives with that. So that's the first thing. Right? I don't think he actually wants to see the war ended, right? Because a lot of people benefit from having this war go on. In addition to that, let me tell you, the Israel-Palestine conflict, or I should say genocide, of Israel just genociding Palestinians over and over and over again, like they have been since the 1940s. If I'm president of the United States and I think to myself, okay, well, how did the conflict get started? I'm saying, okay, well, 800,000 Palestinians, 800,000. I didn't stutter, 800,000 Palestinians were kicked from their homes, forcibly removed from the region, and told they need to go F off. And if they don't, they'll be executed. So who do you think started it? Was it the Palestinians? No, it wasn't the Palestinians. It was Israel. Israel started it. And we should be allowed to say that Israel started it. And you know what? We shouldn't take money from AIPAC. And we shouldn't sympathize with them when they want us to. There's no reason for this. This is obscene. It's absurd. It's appalling. And it's something that the President of the United States has been in huge support of for many, many, many years. One of his biggest supporters, Miriam Adelson, I believe I'm saying that name right, one of his biggest donors, actually supports the full annexation of Palestine to go to Israel. Right? And Trump has espoused those exact same opinions. He said it's about time. He said we need to just take over this land. Right? The Palestinians, they're going to have to go elsewhere. Are you fucking kidding me? This is the man who thinks he should get the Nobel Peace Prize? And he's going to say, okay, well, we ended conflicts. Ended conflicts? Bro, you were sending hundreds of billions of dollars over to Israel to bomb children in hospitals. You are sending billions of dollars to a regime that does fake ceasefires and then has everybody line up in food aid lines and then mows them down with AK-47s. This is the man who thinks he should get a Nobel Peace Prize? Maybe I'm just messed up in the head. Maybe I don't understand things right, but why is this even a conversation from people on the right or the left? Mainly not people on the left, mainly people on the right. But you get my point. How about we vacate the region, leave, bring our troops back, and say, fuck you to the genocidal regimes, and we get rid of them, get rid of the people in those powers, right? We say, all right, our veto power, Israel, gone. You're going to face some crimes. You're gonna face some consequences for your actions by doing these offensive, illegal, torturous, offenses. Right? I mean, I don't know. That's the best way I can put it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know. It ain't looking good, but I just thought it was relatively telling. It's somewhat of a rant, but hopefully you guys did enjoy. Trump ain't getting into heaven. He's being a little cutesy, but he ain't getting into heaven. And that's all I can say. I guess it's not a Freudian slip, but, close. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, hit that subscribe button. And we'll talk to you later. Thank you so much for 354 subscribers. You're the best.